some people are born predisposed to certain things like autoimmune disease or anxiety or ADHD or anything. But I do think that almost everything can be resolved if in the right environment and if prioritizing your wellness and rebalancing your body. Because even if you are born anxious, for example, we know now that you can rebalance your neurotransmitters and do a lot of things that are going to help you become not anxious anymore, or even strategies that help you in the moment to activate your parasympathetic nervous system, for example, to reduce that anxiety response. It's really a lifelong thing, which is why chronic illnesses it's so important to focus on inflammation, because it's really not that hard or expensive to fix. Like in your lifestyle, there's so many things that you can do for free that are going to help your body so much.
Hey, this is Chad Namiro.
And I'm Kelley Namiro. Welcome to the Balancing Chaos podcast,
a lifestyle podcast where we will interview guests about wellness, business, and just about everything in between.
Our goal is to help you develop a lifestyle that promotes health, wholeness, and success. Through our conversations, we hope to inspire you to live a beautiful, full, and joyful life as you navigate balancing the chaos.
We hope you enjoy.
Maggie Berghoff is an entrepreneur, author, international speaker, and mom of three, and she's also my business coach. Maggie is the founder and CEO of Celproceo, a health consulting company rooted in functional medicine and trusted by celebrities, professional athletes, and CEOs. Maggie is also the co-founder and CEO of a business marketing company that she has launched and runs with her husband. They offer a comprehensive business growth program that I am a part of, and they have the reason I love them so much is because they have in-house done for you services. Like they have everything all under one roof: PR, branding, web design, detailed course launches, one-on-one, how like to raise your prices, all of these different things. And it has been such an incredible thing to be a part of. I recommend it for anyone who is starting their own business or growing a business. Maggie has been featured in hundreds of media outlets, including Forbes, Business Insider, Entrepreneur Magazine, Oxygen Magazine, USA Today, local and national television, and so much more. And she is the author of an amazing book called Eat Right for Your Inflammation Type. So we're going to talk a lot about inflammation today, chronic pain, energy, weight loss, all of those things that come along with inflammation. She's also a mother of three cute, adorable little kiddos and focuses on family, and that you should be able to have a flexible schedule as an entrepreneur where you can have both the family life and the fulfillment in the company that you're building. So thank you so much for being with us. I'm so grateful. Let's get right into it. Tell us about your upbringing, your family life. How did your adolescence shape you? Did you always know that you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
Well, thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here with everybody. And so my upbringing was, I would consider it pretty normal to me at least. We were born and raised in the country in Indiana, in a small town outside of Fort Wayne, Indiana. I had lots of siblings. There were 5 of us, and my mom and dad, and just super chill, like lake kids in the summertime. Our grandparents had a lake house. So basically lived at the lake in the summer, hung out at home in between then. And it was just a very country, down-to-earth type of lifestyle, which I'm so grateful. I had the best childhood ever. And I did not know that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I knew that I wanted to be medical. That's always just what I knew. Like I always thought I wanted to be a doctor or I wanted to be medical. And so I just knew that from forever, probably because of some influence in my family and upbringing. And, we're kind of like a medical or a lawyer type of family. And so I chose medical. And that was the route that I went. And I did end up becoming a nurse practitioner in a traditional medical model. I worked in a very normal job for a couple of years before I actually became an entrepreneur.
How long were you actually a nurse for? I actually don't know that.
I worked 2 years as a nurse practitioner and then quit my job. And then I opened up my first online business.
Okay.
Were you exposed to a lot of entrepreneurs and startups and founders growing up in where you did, or was it more so, traditional corporate environments?
Like zero. So born and raised in the country. And then all the schools I attended were private Catholic schools and not very diverse. And then I thought that I wasn't exposed to any entrepreneurs, but looking back after I became an entrepreneur, and at first I was kind of a little mad. I was like, why did no one tell me this was an option? Like when I discovered this world, I discovered that this is who I really am inside. And so I was a little mad at first, but then I realized that my mother's side my grandpa owns a construction company and all my uncles are in construction. So I was like, oh, he's totally an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But I didn't recognize that because it was like, it was so different than what I'm doing. So when I was thinking about starting my own business, and my mom actually wanted me to start my own business, she thought that I'd be great at it. I was like, oh my God, never in a million years. Because I thought that that meant like it would be stressful and hard. I'd be at the office, like he would put the kids to bed and go back to the office until like midnight, right? So I saw that and viewed that as entrepreneurship and owning your own business. And it was nothing I wanted to be a part of. I didn't have any influence of someone who was an entrepreneur who was happy about it. I feel, who enjoyed the process and really liked being an entrepreneur.
When you were a nurse practitioner, were you feeling burnout? Were you exhausted? Like, I know that for me, like when I first met you, that was my big thing. I was like, I am like, don't have any time with my kids. I want to take more stuff off my plate. And I feel burnt out. Was that kind of the catalyst for you to make the change?
So for me, I don't know that I so much felt burnout. I felt like terrified that I was going to be doing the same thing until like for the next 45 years and then like go get a condo in Florida. Like that's what everybody in my town did, right? And so I almost like hit this point to where I was very excited when I was a nurse practitioner. I achieved it. I was really excited. I got my dream. I worked for that dream job. I was like calling up the CEO, like begging for this job. I landed it. And I loved it at first. And then I suddenly realized I got married and I got pregnant and I had been a year and a half in and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm literally just like waking up, going to work, coming home, making dinner, cleaning dinner, going to sleep, and then like doing it again for the rest of my life. Like there's all of what made me me, like what made me Maggie it was like almost like I was suffocating in that model. Like I couldn't be myself anymore. And I was kind of just felt like I was waking up and repeating the same day over and over and over again. And I love flexibility in my schedule. I love doing things different than other people. I always have from the start. And so it was less so burnout feel, more so like, oh my God, I can't do this for the rest of my life.
Right.
Like it's almost like I saw, this path not leading to a life that I would be proud of at the end.
You did have your own health struggles though at one point, right? Was that like way before, or was that when you were nursing that made you want to be in like functional medicine?
Yes. So that was a big pivot because at first I was in traditional medicine and then I went through my own health crash actually in my last year of school as a nurse practitioner. So I was still in school and I was going to these doctors to figure out what was going on in my body. And I had things that Kelley, your clients struggle with. My hormones were so out of balance. I had severe nutrient deficiency. My hair was falling out. I would just look super unhealthy. I was very unhealthy. And all these doctors just kept telling me everything's normal. Your labs are normal. You're fine. And also I was thin. So they're like, oh my gosh, you're fine. I looked outwardly okay to them. And so they just brushed me off. And one of my aunts had told me about functional medicine and I thought it was woo-woo and crazy. And I was like, okay, Aunt Lisa. And she was like, Maggie, just Google it. And so I did. And I was in my 20s. And so I Googled it and I got sucked in. I really embraced it. I went back to school to be certified in functional medicine when I was still a nurse practitioner. So I knew I'm going to do functional medicine, but I didn't even yet know I was going to be an entrepreneur at that point. I just knew I want to be a functional medicine practitioner. And so that's when, at the end of that journey, when I healed my body completely, I knew I cannot continue working in this model as a traditional practitioner. And also, I hate this lifestyle. Like I just completely honest, I don't like this lifestyle. So I decided to combine my passions for functional medicine into a way that I could monetize that and pull myself out of that traditional model.
How much of your, I don't want to say distrust, but how much of like the current treatment modalities being used in Western medicine factored into not only, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur, but I want to research and I want to deliver on, functional medicine, different sort of modalities versus like traditional Western medicine, a lot of prescriptions, very Western, et cetera.
Well, it was definitely the healing my body came first because also then I could think more clearly because I wasn't headachy and groggy and bloated and
brain
I could
fog.
think, brain fog. So it was almost like I became transformed as a human. And then I also had this space, since I felt so amazing, that I was able to identify and then decide that I wanted to spread functional medicine. I didn't want to dedicate my time to continuing on at the hospital. And I do think that there's a time and place for prescription medications. I love them sometimes. So I don't think that that's like horrible. I just think where my passion lies and where I'm best able to impact people is absolutely functional medicine. And so that's when I decided that's where my focus should be in the world. My impact should be in helping people who were like me, who weren't getting the answers in the traditional medicine model, who were being told that their labs were normal, or when their labs were abnormal. Like eventually my labs did get abnormal, and the doctors just gave me these 15 diagnoses and told me that I'd be sick for the rest of my life. So in those situations, there are lots of traditional doctors who can prescribe pills, but there are not that many great practitioners like Kelley and like myself who can really heal a body in that situation.
So you wrote your book, but like based on probably a lot of what you were seeing in your practice. Is that right? Like inflammation and all of that.
What's the book called and what's it about for our listeners?
We're going to link it in the show notes too.
Yeah, good. So the book's called Eat Right for Your Inflammation Type. And it's on inflammation because at the core of everything, this is what happened, Kelley and listeners in general. So what happened is I healed my body after these doctors told me I'd be on IV therapy the rest of my life. I'd be infertile. I'd be on all these meds. And I healed my body completely, like pristine to this day. I had 3 babies naturally. When they told me I was infertile, I'm off of all of my medications. I don't have to go to the clinic every week for an IV. Like they told me my kidneys were failing. It was crazy.
Oh my gosh.
And so everybody, after I did that, they were like, what's the one thing you did? Tell us the one thing. And I'm like, oh, there's
not one
thing. It's not one thing. It's overall inflammation, reducing inflammation in every aspect of my life. And so when I chose to write the book, I really wanted it to be dedicated to the overall theme of reducing inflammation in your life and not being perfect, because I am by no means perfect, but overall reducing inflammation so your body can compensate for the things that are happening and start to heal itself. And then it's easier to maintain once the body is healed and your inflammatory levels are down. So Eat Right for Your Inflammation Type, all focused on reducing inflammation in all areas, not just nutrition, but there's a lot in there about mindset, about personal hygiene products and detoxifying your life and detoxifying your body and who you surround yourself with, your environment. It's all around everyday wellness for real.
I love that you talked a lot about mindset in the book, because I think that what a lot of people don't realize is that stress and like the way that we think about things is actually a big cause of inflammation, like almost as much as the food we're eating or the products, maybe just as much as. So can you tell us what you think are the biggest sources of inflammation?
Yeah, that was my question. That and how do you know if you're inflamed? Everyone is to an extent, I'm sure. Right. And if so, to what degree? I know there's some blood tests like C-reactive protein and there's some lifestyle, et cetera, et cetera. Like, how do you diagnose the level at which someone is inflamed?
So I diagnose the level at which someone's inflamed by, number one, like their symptoms, what they're telling me, because I was ignored when I was bawling my eyes out to my doctors, telling them like something is not right, this is not normal, and they just completely ignored me. So number one, like what the person's saying, how they actually are feeling, whatever, whether or not their labs show something's wrong. And then yes, specialty functional medicine laboratory tests are amazing for showing that. But in the book, we have a quiz to tell. So there's a total toxic burden quiz as well as an inflammatory quiz to see like where you are on the spectrum, because like you said, everybody's kind of inflamed. But for some people, it doesn't really matter as much because their body's compensating for it because we're working the way that it should be. But for some people, it could be, like for me, Kelley mentioned food. I would eat a food, even like a healthy food, like a salad or whatever. And I would call it food hungover. I'd be like food hangover for 4 days with migraines and swollen, and I would gain a bunch of weight and blow up. So for me, at that level of inflammation, any little thing mattered. But now it doesn't, it doesn't matter at all because my body can compensate. But it's not even just what you're eating, because I was actually pretty healthy. I was eating organic for the most part. But for me, it was how I was eating. It was, I was doing a lot of yo-yos. I was at that time, remember, I was in my last year of college in Nashville, Tennessee. So I definitely was in the party scene a little bit. And so I would eat really healthy during the week and work out every day because that's what I prioritized. But then on the weekend, I'd be like binging out on whatever, whenever, and also a lot of alcohol and little sleep. And so I was healthy a lot of the times, but then really unhealthy.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a lot of my mindset around food as well, not even just what I was eating.
So besides food, what do you think are other, like, of course, if we think about like toxins in the environment, like what other things cause inflammation?
Well,
for our listeners?
One of the easiest things I ever did was get rid of the household and hygiene items that I was using, and even makeup. Like nothing touches my skin or is in my house that is toxic for products.
Right.
So,
Yes.
so for me, it was like the easiest switch. And if you can take your inflammation levels down at all with an easy swap, like switching up, the cleaner that you use for your countertop or the lotion you put on your skin,
right?
That's a pretty simple one. So that would help everybody get results pretty immediately.
Even things like dry cleaning, right? I heard the chemicals they use in dry cleaning that ends up touching your skin is terrible. That's one of 100 examples, but some of them aren't necessarily as clear as others.
Yeah.
So most of the people that I see, like one of their bigger frustrations is weight loss. Like they can't lose weight. And I'm sure that's like with your health clients, that's probably one of the things that you hear about too. So can you talk to us about other like symptoms that you might see with inflammation? And then like, I want everyone to go out and get your book because again, like it's so helpful in terms of like this, knowing what type of inflammation you have and then the strategies that you can use to heal it. But talk a little bit about the symptoms that people are experiencing.
Yeah, well, weight loss is like one of my favorite because I've primed my audience enough to know now that they know when they come to me that weight loss, although maybe is something important to them, that they know and trust that rebalancing their body is when the weight will just come off pretty effortlessly. So I love that because it always does. It's like, okay, I want you to not even care about your weight right now. And even to stop working out. Like sometimes I'll have people stop their workouts for months of working with me. And then suddenly the weight comes off and they're like, oh my gosh. And this is for college kids all the way up to 75-year-old fellas. So they're like very excited about the weight coming off, but really it's because we actually just rebalanced their body. But I definitely get that. I get a lot of gut health because that's a part of my story. So a lot of chronic bloating, no matter what you're eating, and constipation, huge in that, as well as anxiety. I've had clients come to me with severe anxiety and tell me that 75% of their anxiety is reduced within a week of working together, reducing inflammation, working on the things that they're doing in their life. So a lot of the mental health as well.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people think that we're human calculators and like women will say, well, I have to lose weight to be healthy. And it's like, no, you have to be healthy to be able to lose weight. It's actually the opposite. So I think that it's about really like resolving the underlying issues like inflammation or hormone imbalances or toxins to be able to get to that place. So thank you for saying that.
Anxiety is an interesting one. In your opinion, how much of this is driven nature versus nurture? Do you think some people are born with predispositions to anxiety, or is this really driven mostly by diet, by state of mind, lifestyle, those type of things, in your opinion?
Well, I think definitely born. Some people are born predisposed to certain things like autoimmune disease or anxiety or ADHD or anything. But I do think that almost everything can be resolved if in the right environment and if prioritizing your wellness and rebalancing your body. Because even if you are born anxious, for example, we know now that you can rebalance your neurotransmitters and do a lot of things that are going to help you become not anxious anymore, or even strategies that help you in the moment to activate your parasympathetic nervous system, for example, to reduce that anxiety response. So I do think that some people are definitely born with things like, there's just a lot of stories that moms tell me that their kid came out anxious or has been bloated since 1 year old, things like that. But then again, there's, what were they eating in their first year of life and all of that kind of stuff as well. But it's really a lifelong thing, which is why chronic illnesses it's so important to focus on inflammation because it's really not that hard or expensive to fix. Like in your lifestyle, there's so many things that you can do for free that are going to help your body so much.
Before we get into the business coaching, because I want people to hear so much about that, because that's what you've helped me tremendously with. The last kind of health related question I have for you is, when you have clients who are, you're telling them like what to do with food, because food is like very emotional for people. People get very attached to it and you're like, you can't have that, or you can't, or you should do this. Like people are like, well, I can't do that. Like, what's your response to
Like
someone,
pizza?
someone who's like self-sabotaging?
When I first started, I am guilty of doing like counting macros and calories and things like that, and also restricting, like telling them you can't have these things. And then I quickly realized that number one, that's what led me down to my health decline. Like a part of it, there was a lot of
the restriction.
Part of it was definitely the restriction. At a very young age, I didn't tell you this story, but at a very young age, I became interested in wellness from my mom's cancer journey, actually. And it was a good thing in the sense that I was interested in wellness and how food can heal the body, but a bad thing. And I became afraid of like cheese and butter and things like that. So at a pretty young age. And so with food, I learned that the best way, the most healing way, is to really come from it at a place of love. And when I was healing my body, and what I teach my clients is to say, I eat to nourish my body. And I eat to nourish my body, and just reminding yourself that when you're at the grocery store or when you're eating or things like that. And then I train my clients to have zero guilt, shame, or any negative feeling whatsoever to food. So like if you have pizza and beer, like cool, amazing. I hope you had the best time of your life. Like, oh, cool. And just like really embracing and enjoying whatever you're eating and not having to make up for it or tell me, some clients will be like, I'm so sorry. Like I had pie at Thanksgiving. I'm like, amazing. Was it good? What kind? So like my attitude toward food being not something to be fearful from, but at the same time, acknowledging that there are some foods that are making you feel really crappy right now. And so I'll remind my clients, like, you told me you hate feeling this way and you really want to make a change. And I'm confident that if you reduce dairy, grains, and sugar, you're going to feel a heck of a lot better. So why don't you give it a shot? Let's do 6 months to reduce grains and dairy and sugar. And if you have it, who cares? Amazing, embrace it, enjoy it, be in the moment. But overall, let's try to reduce that. So really just looking at it in a more flexible way.
Yeah.
Do you find that with your clients, reducing it incrementally has the best chance of success? Or do you find that at times you can actually have people cold turkey?
Oh gosh. I mean, if I can say any, I think there's two totally different types of people. The people who need to do gradual, and then there are the people who have to go like cold turkey, right? Like you tell me what you said. It's different.
Well,
Everyone's different.
Everybody is different. And also if you have I had mindset stuff around food. So I needed also some training on okay, how to eat these foods without guilt and shame, and how to not restrict and binge. And so, if you're like that and counting calories and going cold turkey and being like, I'm never going to have this thing again. And then when you have that thing again, you feel guilty. Then you need to take it a little slower and be more graceful for you. But then there are some people who are motivated, ready to go. They want the plan. They're going to follow the plan, and they want to just make that change right away.
Yeah. I'm in 100% agreement with you, Maggie. I feel like the women who I work with who are, who have had a challenging relationship with food and their body, like I personally have too. I think that it's much easier to go more gradually with things, especially if you have an intolerance or whatever it is to that food. Taking away cold turkey makes it feel too restrictive, and then they start to panic.
You know what the cool thing is that when you reduce inflammation, your body, even if it's a little bit of things, your body starts to heal. So then you start to feel better. So then it's easier to make healthy choices. And so it's kind of this cycle. You don't have to do it all at once as you start to get better in any area of reducing inflammation. So there's a ton of different areas you can do in the book. And so if in any area, as you start to get better and your body starts to heal, it's easier to rebalance your body and to make healthier choices. And you just think different. Like how I told you that I didn't even want to be an entrepreneur until I healed my body, because I was a different human. I was a different person once I was healed than when I was struggling, even though I didn't realize that when I was struggling. It takes getting to the other side to recognize how amazing things can feel in your life and how amazing you can be in your life.
Totally. I love that you brought that back to you even being an entrepreneur. Cause even for me, if I think back about when I worked in the corporate world, I felt totally different in my body than I do now. I have so much more energy. I feel so much more clear. And bringing it back to that inflammation point too. It's I was telling a client the other day, she's she has that food fear. And she was talking about, well, when I had an intolerance to I think it was dairy and gluten, and it wasn't an allergy. It was just an intolerance. I was well, as you heal the inflammation, then the intolerance becomes less and less. So you can try to reintroduce those foods and see if you still have the same reaction, because the less inflamed your body is, the less likely you'll have the reaction. So I love everything that your
also
book
make
is
it
about.
fun. Like make it fun. I tell that, like, some people say, like, when they're afraid to do some kind of wellness journey and they're afraid that it's going to be restricting and take away their joy and stuff, I always tell them this is going to be the most fun time ever. And I seriously, with my clients, I'm like, this is going to be the most fun time ever. It's going to be amazing. You're going to feel awesome. And like, I'm so excited for your vacation. Let's navigate it with ease and I'll get you all set up. So having that energy toward this journey of it being fun and exciting and awesome and a status upgrade versus restricting and like, oh, I have to do this thing, makes 100% of a difference in your results.
Totally.
Yeah. I think we have it all backwards. There's a really great book called The Happiness Advantage that was actually recommended to us by a guest we had in the podcast. But this whole fallacy that success and sometimes health like come after, like it's all reverse essentially.
It's like if you believe that you're happy right now and you like
basically if you're eating well, if you have good lifestyle choices, like, and you are generally happier and healthier, that's going to make you more successful, more driven, more fulfilled in life. And like the fallacy is that, you know, that stuff can come behind once you get the car or the promotion or the kid
you can
want.
have it now.
And it's just an interesting construct. Yeah.
If you wake up groggy and you're headachy and you're irritable and you're anxious, everything is different than if you wake up just literally so excited to wake up and like live your day and you feel so good and you're so happy and you feel joyful. It makes the world of a difference in everything that comes next in your life.
Hey fam, if you are listening here, then you may be someone who deals with chronic overwhelm, bloating, anxiety, and weight you can't lose, maybe hair loss or skin conditions. If one of those things rings true for you, the Wellness by Kelley Health and Hormones course is available to help you get to the root cause and solve the issue in a way that's sustainable and gives you your lifestyle with lasting results. No more diets or quick fixes, but real health and vitality for the long run. My course runs through everything from what labs to test for to what protocols to implement given what's off in your blood work. We cover a variety of hormonal imbalances and how to heal them, plus the mindset work that you'll have to do to change your habits. If you're ready for an environment where you can learn the tools and truly heal to feel your best, most aligned, light, confident version of you, then this course is for you. If you're feeling called to join the WBK Health and Hormones course, head to the link in the show notes to learn more, where you'll get my membership included with your purchase.
We've talked a lot about health and wellness. I want to talk a lot about your business coaching program that I joined, this year. And you have a mastermind, you see clients one-on-one. And this kind of stemmed from your health practice, right? So talk to us a little bit about, I think that the best place to start is the fact that, like what I said at the beginning, I had like zero boundaries when I first started working with you. I was about to have a second baby and I was already exhausted and drained. And you're like, no, we can do this. Like you can have like a life and also have a business. And I'm like, really? I don't believe you. And it's true. And now I do. And I think a big part of it is because you offer so many services under one roof, like I mentioned at the beginning. So can you just tell our listeners like what that is and like how you and your husband even came up with the idea to do this?
Even just before that, who are your clients? Is it mostly or entirely entrepreneurs? Are you doing executive coaching, male, female, across all verticals? Just curious in terms of who your general client base is.
Okay, so client base is male, female, or whoever. And also, when we first started, it was all health and wellness professionals because that's what I was. And so it's really stemmed from, oh my gosh, our inbox and my social media and anytime I was anywhere, people would always ask me to teach them and mentor them in how to build their business. And I said no for years. I'm like, no, don't want to do that. I'm fine. I'm going to keep running this functional medicine practice. This is my focus and my family. And then actually it was a couple years into everybody asking us every day that I specifically remember the conversation. My husband and I were working because after my very first year of business, he quit his job and came home, and we're just going to raise the family and build a business together. And it's ever since. And so we were sitting in Nashville and I was like, Jimmy, 5 people in the last 1 hour have asked us to mentor them. Like, what are we going to do? And he was just like, well, let's just do it. Let's just try it out. Let's just help these 5 people only, or like, tell them. So we DM'd them back and said that, we'd mentor them, and all 5 signed up. And that's literally how it began. And of course, they all built their business. They transformed their lives. Now they were helping all these people with health and wellness. And so it was this huge, huge moment where we recognized the bigger impact, even bigger, that we could have, yes, continuing to run the functional medicine practice, but also helping other people have their dream life. And telling them how to do this for their life and their clients. And so it started actually for health and wellness professionals, but even just most recently, our newest relaunch of all of our programs transferred it from health and wellness to general, so that any entrepreneur can come in and build a coaching, consulting, or course creation business with us, no matter their background, because the truth is the strategies work for any background. And so it's now for all people who want to build their companies specifically online.
Can you tell us a little bit about like everything that you guys offer? Because like I said, like it took so much off my plate. I don't have to do PR outside of, you anymore. I don't have to do, it's like all in one place.
Yeah. So essentially what we've done is we've built multiple thriving online businesses, mostly in the coaching, course creation, educational space. And so we've taken a lot of time to document all of that and get all the structures in place, the templates, so it's teachable. Because there's a difference between doing it yourself and teaching someone else. It's so much harder to teach someone else. And so it took a lot of time to structure this in a way that it's repeatable time and time again. So when someone comes in, they can repeat it and get success. And what we've done is, Kelley, obviously you're a one-on-one agency client, but we have things all the way down from the intro level of people who just want an online course that they can buy and DIY and go through to learn business. We wanted it to be accessible and an opportunity that people could learn from me who maybe even aren't all the way ready to dive all in. Like I told you, when I became an entrepreneur, at first I was a little mad. I was mad that no one told me this was an option.
You could do this. Yeah.
Yes. And I actually, looking back, I recognize now that I am an entrepreneur at my core, but I was not in the environment to nurture that, to tell me that like that is who I am. And that's how I can use my skill sets in a different way. And so we have the automated program to teach you how to build your business. And then we have the done for you agency. We do in-house photography, videography, PR. We do in-house course launches, like entire web builds, course launches.
Yeah, you built my whole website.
Yes. And so, and basically as we continue to grow, our services grow. So once we get to a certain level within our business and we can teach it, we can replicate it, and we can hire a leg of the team to support it for our clientele, then we just keep on expanding those services.
Amazing.
Let me ask you something. Do you think there's some people that aren't meant to be entrepreneurs? They're just
100%.
Because I do too. I think some people aren't meant to do it because they're risk averse, or like they want predictability, or all the things. They can't deal with the stress of not knowing where the next, paycheck might come from, that kind of thing. So it sounds like yes.
And this is actually probably controversial, especially since I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a mom of 3 kids, but I don't think everybody should be a parent. And I don't think everybody should be an entrepreneur, for real.
Yeah,
totally.
And so, I agree with that.
Yeah. Neither of my sisters have children right now. And I always am like, you guys don't have to if you don't want to. Know that there are options out there instead of the path, right? I followed the path. And now I recognize that there's a different path that you can follow if you choose. And that path can be whatever the heck you want it to be. So I do think, Chad, that not everybody can and should be an entrepreneur. And that the biggest thing is, where do you find joy? I did not find joy as an employee. Yeah. So if you find joy as an employee, you love I have team members, thank God, right? So if you love your job and this fulfills you and you are living a life that you love, stay where you are. If you're not, and you feel like inside of you, like me, I was like, oh my gosh, I would be so sad if at the end of my life, I looked back and like, this is what I did. Yeah. And that's a problem. And there are other things that you can do. And I do think that entrepreneurship elevates people to doing other things good in the world. There are things that I do that aren't even related to our businesses now that I would never have done when I was a nurse practitioner, even just financially, just back and doing different things in the world. And so I think that entrepreneurs are extremely important, and not every person in the world should be one.
Like, on that same vein, how do you coach your clients around failure? Because I feel like that's such a critical component of being an entrepreneur. Like, you have to in my opinion, have a healthy relationship to failure, because you've heard it a million times. Some of the most successful people in the world failed 10 times before the 11th time. And so is that a big part of your coaching mentality, and getting people to see failures as an opportunity to learn versus an actual loss?
It is. So that actually comes very natural to me. So I can explain how I process that for my clients, which helps a lot. But we also have a full-time mindset coach who's trained in that too for our clients, because sometimes it takes some deeper work that I'm not equipped to do. So what I don't ever feel like I've ever failed in my whole life, because I've only learned lessons. And as cliche as that sounds, I truly do not feel like I'm failing when I'm failing. I truly feel like, okay, whoa, so maybe this isn't what I want to do. Or like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. Let's do it this way instead next time. So I, honest to God, do not feel like despair of failing, even when somebody else in that same situation would probably quit. And so for me, it's all about, like I said, that joy. Like, am I happy? Like, truly, am I happy? Am I joyful? Do I like my life? And that's my driving point. Not so much, did I succeed in that launch, you know? And so I'm always, of course, failing, but more so just living my life and then seeing how it unfolds and continuing to move forward.
I think that even if you're like, go back to the other question that you had asked, like of, you know, are some people not meant to be entrepreneurs? I think that, like, when I think about, I never thought I was going to start my own business, like never in a million years. But when I think about like my mindset around things, like, you know, Maggie and I did one masterclass that was 1 day this year. And then we did one that was 4 days. And instead of being like, oh, well, the one that was 4 days did worse than the one that was 1 day. It's like, okay, no, can I learn from that? And like, see that as like, okay, from now on, I'm going to make them either 1 or 2 days, because that's what does the best for my business instead of the failure. And I think that that's kind of always how I've thought about things too. So maybe that's like a something that makes an entrepreneur. I don't know.
Yeah. And the biggest thing is, like, at the end of the day, does it really matter that you did a 4 day versus a 2 day? Like, the next time you can do a 2 day, like, it doesn't, I think a lot of people, when they become an entrepreneur, they get so tripped up and freaked out about the little moments or what happened that week, instead of looking at, this is your entire life, your entire career, and looking at the big picture versus the 1 week.
I think that a lot of people probably asked you, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but maybe like when you first started doing the business coaching, like, because I heard you say, I don't know if it was when we were talking or on another podcast, but I heard you say somewhere like, in your first year of business, you tripled your income. And I'm guessing that's probably why people wanted you to coach them on business, because you're like, okay, you know how to grow a business, you know what you're doing. So when you first started, did you know how to price yourself? Were you like, I'm going to start and I'm going to set my prices high, and like, that's how I'm going to increase my income? Or was it like a learning curve that you had to go through?
Well, it was a big learning curve. And I did a lot of research, actually. So I had no flipping idea what to do. You know, I had zero social media. So it's not like I saw anyone doing what I was doing. I truly thought I was making this job up. So when I first started, it was just kind of digging up into like functional medicine practitioners and literally looking at their websites, and then looking at their prices and looking at the packages that they're doing. And so that's when I started to recognize and to kind of feel into what was normal in this space. And I remember seeing what some of these functional medicine practitioners were charging for their packages or for their first consultation. And I was just astounded. I really was, because I'm used to, you know, people coming in for a $25 copay to see me. And so that's how I did it, though. I researched, I looked at what other people were doing, and it was a Google search, because I had zero social media at the time. I was like the anti-social media girl. And now look, I build all these companies on social media. But it was really just looking, researching what other functional medicine practitioners were doing at the time, because I knew I wanted to be in functional medicine, which is important, you know, if you are starting to want to be an entrepreneur, to know kind of like an area, at least a little hint of what you want to go into, like what your passion is, and look and find some inspiration of other people to kind of draw upon what you do and don't want to do. I also had a lot of what I don't want to do, because I was a patient first. And there were a lot of functional medicine providers that I saw that I actually did not like. But it was a horrible experience to see these functional medicine providers. So I went to some that were not good, and it actually taught me how I don't want to run my business. And so it made me a better practitioner when I opened my own services.
So for me, like you've helped me double my revenue in 1 year. And I think that that's like a very exciting, point to make for anyone who is looking to have a business coach. Like Maggie is definitely the person you want to see. But when we first met, I was really hesitant to raise my prices. I was like, I don't want to do that. Like no one's going to buy, like all these things. And so for someone who's hesitant to raise their prices, like what is your advice to them? What is your advice to someone who like maybe is like in this growth stage of their business and they're thinking about like, oh, I want to make more money, but like, I don't know how.
Maybe not just prices. I mean, it's simple supply and demand. So how do you create enough demand and at the right price?
Yeah. Maggie always told me if you have a wait list, you're priced too.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's where you want to focus your attention. So I think a lot of what I do is I help people really step into the CEO of their company. A lot of times, like Kelley, you were basically an employee of your company, working every day, seeing clients at a very low cost.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's fine if your model is you have 100.
Yeah.
Yes, voluminous. And you have 100 practitioners on staff, you have, 30 clinics around the United States, that kind of model. But for the model that you are building, that I've built, that most of our clients build, you as the CEO of your company should not be behind your computer seeing clients all day because your company will never grow. And you are charging prices that won't allow you to monetize anyways. So the goal that you told me you wanted, Kelley, I was like, well, you literally will never get there of like the impact and the future stuff and having time to grow the podcast and having time to grow the app and just all the things that you wanted to do are not possible if you're not charging an appropriate price, like competitive. It's not like I'm telling you to go charge like,
no,
it's literally just competitive. So making sure that you're competitive or just above competitive, at least for most people's models, is appropriate. And then for most of the people who are afraid to do that, it's because they want to help save the world. And I get that. And I love that. But the way that you help save the world is not working with all of them one-on-one. It literally is impossible. The way that you help to save all those other people is by making a great income and giving back in the form of a book, a podcast, free educational material, a low-cost app, foundations, fundraisers, charities, things like that. That's how you make a big, big impact, not by seeing them one-on-one.
Totally. I love that. So for you then, and I know the answer to this, but can you explain to our audience, why is the high ticket, fewer clients model easier than the 10,000 people or 100,000 people, $9.99 model?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's so much easier. Anybody can go out and find 10 clients in the next couple months who want help with their health, especially, or any industry, interior design. Like I know you guys are building, we just built. So there's so many people that need the services that you have to offer. It's much easier to attract 10 of them than to attract 10,000 of them. And so 10,000 may come if that's your goal, but that's audience growth and that's a long-term game plan. And it's not for a quick monetization. It will take years to monetize that typically. Whereas with the high ticket model, seeing one-on-one clients, it's incredible what our clients do within just a few months with us. Yeah. You doubled your income. You sold more tickets or more courses than you had an entire year prior in 7 days, craziness, right? And it's all about restructuring the program and then the confidence of stepping into the CEO of the company and then having the back end solidified. So I'm a very organized person. So very organized back end system to make sure things are running smoothly so you can scale and continue to grow.
Yeah, it's any premium or luxury brand or service. Are you scarce? Is your services scarce enough to charge a higher price than everyone else? Yes. Yeah, things like that.
I think that
want to be, there are certain clothing brands that are $500 for a shirt and some that are $10 for a shirt. Yeah. So what clothing brand do you want to be? And if you want to be the $10 a shirt clothing brand, that's fine, but that's a big volume.
You better have a lot of reach.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
So speaking of that reach, you've, on your end, I know that your Instagram got hacked and deleted, and then you've regrown an Instagram and a TikTok to 55,000, 60,000 people. And you don't really love the idea of ads. You actually got me to stop running my ads because it was a waste of money. So tell us a little bit about your social media growth strategy, getting new clients in. I'm guessing that most of your clients found you the same way that I did, which is through social media, the same way my clients find me. What's your strategy there?
Yes, they do. They always have found me from social media. And we have over 200,000, I think, on TikTok now, and like 55,000 on Instagram. And that's from getting hacked. So number one, good lesson. When my Instagram got hacked overnight and I woke up to literally it gone, my whole like business growth model where all my clients came from, right? The very next day I was like, okay, well, I guess this will be a good chance to start fresh. I've changed in the last couple of years. So I immediately switched that to like a positive of a fresh start. Who doesn't want a fresh start every once in a while? So things like that, whereas somebody else may have stewed on that for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and it would have held them back. So just a lesson to learn. And then with social media, how I've grown is really just showcasing the behind the scenes. When I first started and tripled the income in the first 12 months of my functional medicine practice, I was showing a lot of just what I do, just letting people in. It's not that I'm a good content creator. I really am not. I'm not great at editing or creating fancy stuff. I'm more so just documenting my day and certain things that I know people who want help with their health would want to know about, like what I do in the morning, or like my favorite new lotion, or things like that. So I'm more so just documenting some things and then always having a call to action that I can help you. I always tell people and remind people that there are a lot of people on the internet, on these social media platforms who are education based or influence based, but you can't hire them to work like privately with, like you can with you, Kelley, or with our company. Yeah. And so you have to remind them that you can hire you. And so having that call to action, and same thing with the business. It was simply about, with that, starting to showcase how I love that I have a business. And this is how cool that I was able to take the day off and chaperone my kids. And like, I didn't have to ask for permission for that. And just different things like that I showcase and lead by example to show other people who perhaps want that lifestyle as well, or perhaps want to heal their body as well, that I can help them through that.
Yeah. I imagine a lot of it's word of mouth as well. Yeah. Like successful clients you work with are telling their friends, family, etc., and that kind of creates the flywheel.
A lot of word of mouth, a lot of strangers just on social media, and a lot of word of mouth. Also, what's really cool about social media though is opportunities. So almost all the podcasts that I've been on, the big, huge summits, the stages I've spoken on, were actually just opportunities there of people asking me to be on their stuff. And then some outreach, but a lot of simple opportunities. And that's the power of social media and mainstream media to really build authority in the space. Because when you are building authority and credibility, which I do believe helped me tremendously in that first year, I was already doing PR. I was on TV. I was going on trips with Richard Branson. I was like doing stuff in my first year of business that built a lot of influence and authority in this space and instant trust.
Yeah. I think that kind of brings me to the question of like, you know, when we are talking about like growing my business, and I was so zoned in and focused on social, and you're like, well, but what about like all the traditional media? What about all the like, you know, like getting a write-up in something like Forbes, or like, so like, would you want to be doing that? And I was like, but like, it's so powerful. Like it gives you so much more credibility, because people are like, wow, that person's been like written up in Forbes. That person has been in like this many magazine articles, and it just does, it helps so much. And so, like if somebody was trying to gain credibility, like because they want to grow their business, is there any advice that you could give on that?
Well, 100% PR. I think that just like how there's not one way to heal your body, it's a combination. There's not one way to build your business. It's definitely a combination. So social media helps to build relationship and rapport with people. I let them in on my life. You do too, Kelley. So when they hire me, they're like, I already feel like I know you, right? Yes. And so that's very important. It helps a lot in a personal brand. So it builds your audience, your influence, but it doesn't build your authority and credibility. PR does. Right. So when they see you and I've told you, Kelley, before, I mean, I posted like an Oxygen magazine feature that I had on TikTok randomly because I didn't have any content to post. So I just posted an old one, and it was from like 3 years ago. And then we got Celproceo clients coming in and business clients being like, oh, cool. How'd you do that? And so it's endless opportunity when you have PR to establish yourself as an authority figure, and you know it's true. If you see someone that you want to hire and they're featured in all these big publications or on TV and they're doing stuff, right? They're doing stuff. And then you have someone else that maybe is just as talented, but they're only posting on social media. You probably will hire the person who's doing the other stuff.
Oh, 100%.
Yes. And so it's the same thing with any business model. And the cool thing is that just like some things with wellness, some PR can be free. Like, of course, we do done for you PR. So if you want us to be pitching and like doing all your stuff and navigating your PR, you can hire our agency to do that. But you can also learn how to DIY it. And it can be free, and really comes back to relationship building too. Like, who do you know maybe who works at some news station, or maybe your uncle is HR at some magazine place, right? Like, who do you know who can kind of get you a strategic introduction to the media? And then when the media is talking about your business, you amplify that on social media, and it's like this big effect of momentum.
Yeah. Humans want validation, right?
Yeah. They want to know that you're, if you're paying the price, that you're going to be worth it. So I think
it's even true for retail, for think about a brand like LVMH, right? Like, why else would people pay $3,000 for a handbag? I mean, it's validated in society. It's validated in other areas. I would say that for our podcast too, just kind of have faith in people, I guess. We asked a lot of really high profile guests, and many of them said yes, just because they thought what we were doing was interesting. They wanted to help. People like spreading the word, helping other people, talk.
So if you don't ask, you're never
just
gonna
ask.
get a yes.
You want as much reach as possible. And I think a lot of people would find themselves surprised on some of the platforms and mediums they can get themselves on. Would be my
100%. I talk about that a lot, actually. Like, a portion of the mindset stuff is a lot of people just don't ask for what they want. And they're waiting for it to magically happen for them. And I'm like, you literally could just text them or like send them an email, just ask them, and they might actually say yes. So a lot of what I've achieved in life came from me asking for it. And that does take courage, I would say. But it's, like you said, humans most likely want to help other humans. They do. It feels good to help somebody. And so having a simple ask, like if I was on a podcast, asking the podcast host, like, hey, do you have a couple of friends who have podcasts too? I'm looking to do some more. Simple ask, a couple emails sent, and boom, I'm booked on 2 more podcasts, right? Yeah. So little things like that, just getting outside of your comfort zone and asking for opportunities or things that you want, especially with PR. The people writing these articles are real humans with real jobs. Just message them and say, hey, I loved that article. I do this, would love to collaborate and do a piece together sometime. Yeah. It can be something like that.
Yes. I think that we get in our own ways so often. We're like, oh, well, I'm scared. I'm nervous. They're going to say no. And it's like, but you're never going to know unless you try.
It's actually more predominantly women. If you read the studies, women are much more reserved and asking for a promotion, asking for anything that they might perceive as like, above where their current state is or what have you. Mm-hmm. Whereas men, more often than not, will be like, okay, I'll figure it out later. Like, I'll just get the opportunity and I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I learned that in my master's. It was interesting. I didn't know it was that skewed.
I mean, the worst that they can say is no. And right now it's already a no because you've never asked them. So the best that can happen is that it is a yes. Yeah. There's really no risk in doing that and asking for what you want or for the introduction.
Totally.
So what's like the most common denominator with the people you coach in terms of like how, what do you see most in terms of how people are getting in their own way? Is it a lack of knowledge? Is it a lack of confidence? Like, is there any sort of commonality between some of these things that you could just kind of give a quick hitting advice on? Maybe there isn't.
Yeah, there is. Sometimes I just want to like, this is why I don't think everyone should be an entrepreneur, because sometimes working with a lot of people over the years, I'm like, oh my gosh, like they might not have what it takes, because they get in their way. So I'm serious. I'm serious. So one thing about getting in their way is overwhelm. So some people can become overwhelmed and then they just like have this paralysis where they just like stop. And so, overwhelm can definitely be a setback. So if you are overwhelmed, then you need to just like take a step back and recognize that overwhelm is just a feeling and you can choose to take it away. And by taking away that overwhelm and just being like, I'm not going to do that today. And I'm going to just focus on this one thing and achieve this one thing and just kind of reducing it. And again, it takes a lot of just self-growth to recognize like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed right now. Take a step back, clear the overwhelm, and then just get right back at it. So overwhelm can totally stall people and like lose them months or have them give up on their business. And then another thing I would say is concern with money, income. I see a lot of clients who are literally just concerned about how much money they're making, or, oh, this launch didn't go well. And I even just the other week, somebody crushed it, biggest month of her life, and then texted me and was sad because that one day, it was like a Wednesday, and she was like, no one's reached out to me today. I'm like, you literally the biggest, and then she was nervous. So then her thought process started spiralizing of like, can I keep this up? Am I going to succeed? Is this real life, or is this just a fluke from that one day? And so being concerned about the monetary outcome is going to like definitely deteriorate you. I've never been concerned about the monetary outcome. The monetary wins come effortlessly when I'm just staying aligned with doing what I love, following fulfillment and joy, and staying focused. I'm really good at staying focused and efficient with the time that I am working so that I can continue to make momentum forward. So overwhelm and focus on money would be like the two biggest self-sabotaging things that I see.
Oh my gosh. I so hear you on like I feel like the overwhelm was my, like, as we've mentioned, like my biggest problem when I first started working with you. But I think that
you're like an inch deep, mile wide, just doing everything.
Just doing too many things. And it's like,
you gotta have focus.
You have to have focus. And like we talked about too, like I was seeing way too many clients. Like there was just way too many people. And so it's like,
I was there.
So when you like raise your prices and then people acknowledge that like it's actually worth that, and it's like then you only have to have 10 people versus 30 people, it feels so much better. But I think what I was going to say is that like when I hear so much what Maggie's saying, I've never been the person who's only focused on the money, because I love so much what I do. But like I think that when that is your focus, you lose so much sight of like what it's all about. And like there has to be an equal exchange in any business. Like you have to be giving value and providing value to that person just as much as like they're giving you the money. So your focus has to be on that just as much.
I mean, to be fair, it's not, sorry, Maggie, it's not even just a financial outcome. It's a financial risk. Like an entrepreneur that's about to put their savings into a business idea that has a family, it might be very different than someone that's 25 years old, a lot less risks. They can go move in with their parents down the road. I mean, that's real. And that's potentially why everyone's not meant to do this, because there's very material risk in it. Yeah, absolutely.
It does. And with the financial, if you have that much financial pressure, then we're always thinking about the pressure that you have versus the entrepreneurship journey.
Opportunity. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, I mean, obviously we all need to make money, and it's great to make money, and we want to have high profiting businesses and keep on growing and growing and growing. But it's just that the negativity and urgency, and then like the fear of, not doing well can definitely
take over. So I think one of the important questions I wanted to ask you, like, I think there are so many people out there, whether they're just podcast listeners or like even a few of my own clients. I think I have like 3 or 4 people right now who are looking to start their own business. And like one of them was also in like traditional, like Western medicine, like, so, but like, I'm sure there are so many other podcast listeners too, who are like trying to start their own thing. So for you, how did you get your very first client? And if you're thinking about people out there who are looking to like, again, like quit like a corporate job and then start something, and they're like, oh, well, I haven't filled like X, Y, and Z spots. It's like, how do you kind of ease into it, and how do you gain your first client?
Okay, this is good to talk about because we talked about social media and mainstream media. But actually at the core, that is what I did in my first year of business. But at the very start, I had no social media and no mainstream media. And my first client, I met at the YMCA in the sauna together. So the reason, yes, no, but you know what? The reason why, again, it comes down to just the courage. Like courage is kind of like the through line, because she was chatting and I was brand new. I was still working full-time as a nurse practitioner. I had just like kind of started thinking about this thing, right? And I'm sitting next to her in the sauna, this stranger, and we're chatting. And she asks me what I do, or she was talking about her bloating or something. And I just straight up told her, well, I have a functional medicine practice online. Like I can help you with that and do online consulting with you. And she's like, oh, really? And I said, yeah, sure, for sure. And I had nothing figured out. I just knew I could help her because I knew I could. And I didn't have anything else figured out. So I just told her like, oh, let me take down your number. I'll be in touch. And then I figured it out. And then I gave her a call, and then I enrolled her into my first program. So at the YMCA in the sauna, and it's just just about talking about what you do. I have another client, Jacqueline. I love her story. Her first client came from the coffee shop. She was in like this really obnoxious long line. And so she started chatting with the person next to her, and they started chatting, and she signed her first client. You never know who could
Where
be that.
you're gonna, yeah, I love that. I think that it's really all about, well, it's really all about like what you just said, courage and like confidence, like being confident in like knowing that you can help someone, and like saying, like putting that out there. There's somebody out there that is going to want your help.
Well, if you believe in what you're doing and you're passionate, it becomes less of a pitch
And
from a sales perspective and more of just like who you are. And if it comes from a place of reality and authenticity, then it's going to be well received versus like, oh, she's trying to sell me something.
Yeah.
Right. Because I believe to my core, like I can freaking help someone build their business, right? I know I'm so good at that. I've done it so many times. I've done it in my own life. It's repeatable. Same with health. Like I knew I could help this girl, and I'm so passionate about it and so excited about it. So believing in the thing that you're selling, and also believing in yourself. Because I could have told myself, I'm too new. I don't have my website yet. No one knows me. I don't know my program yet. So I could have said all those things and like held off. But I stepped up to the plate. And so same thing, like with the book deal, I could have said, I'm horrible at English. Like I'm horrible at English. It was my worst class in school. I'm not an author. I never thought about this. I don't have a social media following. But instead, when the opportunity presented itself, I was like, heck yeah, I'd love to write a book. Let's do this. Right. So stepping up to the plate when opportunity comes, even if you're not all the way ready, because if you believe in yourself and you believe in what you have to offer to the world, then the rest will fall into place. But you have to get in the game first for that to happen.
Yeah.
Love it. So for me, as someone who's come from that burnout hustle like culture, I always like to ask people like, and like you are like the picture of balance. Like if you guys don't follow Maggie on social media, go follow her. Cause like, again, like she'll have full days where she's like off. Like, I think that I was watching a story of yours the other day and you were like hanging out with your husband in your basement, like watching Netflix, like on a Tuesday afternoon at 2 p.m. Like, but then she does have days where she's like fully seeing clients. So like, how do you take care of yourself? What are some of the strategies there? And what does that look like?
Yes. So I started a business, yes, because I care about impacting people in this way, because I'm obsessed with what I do. Clearly, that's evident. But also I wanted a flexible lifestyle to do what I want, when I want. And I truly live that, like you said. And I let myself be present in the moment. So for like wellness, for example, I can turn it off. A lot of people in entrepreneurship talk about how they can't turn it off, right? They can't stop. And they're always thinking about the business. But at first, when I first started my business, I will say that was pretty true. And my husband had to remind me like, hey, you said that family is important and you wanted to start this business and like you're seeing a client at 8 p.m. Like things like that. Like I know we're recording this right now, but like he would remind me of things. And so I'm pretty good now at being fully present when I'm working and fully present when I'm with my kids and fully present when I'm with my husband and my family. And it makes me a better person in all those roles, a better CEO, a better mentor, a better mom, a better wife. And so that's really how I prioritize that. And for wellness, you said, how do I prioritize wellness? Obviously, I have a wellness background, so I'm equipped with the tools to do that. But even a lot of entrepreneurs who have wellness backgrounds get stuck not following the things that they should be following. I think I'm just addicted to feeling really good. So I would not do things that make me feel really bad. And so I would fuel my body with things that make me feel great. I would fill my days with things that make me feel great. I would fill my client schedule with people who make me feel great. And that's how I allow that to happen in my life.
The separation from like work and family is really hard for like so many people we talk to, myself included. So are there any like concrete tips you have or strategies? Like, for example, we hear leaving your phone upstairs being one of them. Like anything really concrete that you could give to the listeners in terms of like, how do you draw that line between the two worlds and really allow yourself to be present in each of them?
Yes. So efficiency and verbalizing your needs. For me personally, if things get too overwhelmed with business, like I have too many things piling up on my list, I'm like, I'm going to freak out, right? I've had those moments where I'm like, I'm going to have a freak out because there's just too much on the list. So for me, I need to step away from the situation. So I might be like, hey, Jimmy, I'm going to the coffee shop all day today. And I just like zone in and get my stuff done, but I need to be away. Or when I was redoing a big, huge project for work, I seriously got an Airbnb for 2 days. And
I remember seeing that.
yes. And I went to the Airbnb like 5 minutes down the road from my house. And I was just like, I'll be gone for the next 2 days. I'm going to zone in and do this thing. But that makes me a better mom, because you see, when I wasn't, I knew I needed those 2 full days to myself for this business. And if I didn't do that for the next like 2 months, probably I would have been thinking about it and talking about it and complaining about it. And it wouldn't be good for anyone. So like noticing when I need to fully separate myself and like I need a minute or 2 days. And then that's when everything can flow nicely. And then also just organization, delegation. The times where I think that I've been most unable to turn things off is when I'm overwhelmed. There's too much to do with the kids. There's too much to do with myself, my wellness. There's too much to do with our clients and the business. And so by delegating things, taking things off my plate, and maybe going away if I need to go away for like a day or something to get some things done, even if it's just like signing the kids up for their dentist appointments, like just anything that's on my mind just needs to kind of get crossed off.
Yeah. I think saying no too. Kelley, I'm going to call you out. So she wanted to put West in soccer, which is great, but like it was 30 minutes away. It was on a Wednesday. And I'm like, this is just like not a good allocation of our time. Like we can find something closer, more time efficient, like to put him in.
Yeah, I think that like that definitely allows, like when you're using your time, like what Maggie said, like more effectively and more efficiently, it just ultimately allows you to be more present with your family, because you're not doing them. It's like you're not driving across town to a soccer practice.
Do you add personal time and you know, family time into your calendar? Is that something you do?
So first of all, with that type of thing, saying no, for the past year and a half, you have not seen me probably on one podcast, one magazine, or one TV. I said no to every single opportunity.
Well, thanks for doing this.
You're welcome. But you'll see that in January, we're going to start media again. I'll start saying, yes, we're going to reply to those emails. Like the world didn't end because I didn't do that for the last year and a half, but I needed to in order to do the things that I needed to do with my family and the businesses. And then for Chad's question on personal life, I'm going to be completely honest, because this is an honest podcast, obviously, and I would always be honest. But life right now is a little chaotic with our family because our kids are ages 5, 3, and 2. So even if I have like the perfect schedule plan, it never goes that way. It never goes that way. So for me, my personal time is not very much right now, for real. It's like work and maybe trying to hang out with my husband, and then like the kids are home, and so being with them. So and then I like fall asleep in their bed at night. So it's like not that much time to myself right now. And I've embraced that that's the season that I'm in. And so instead of stressing about it and complaining about it and being upset about it, embracing it makes everything so much better. Just almost like if you were like training a wild horse, just like finally just being like, okay, you know what, we're just gonna like ride this and let this be. And then like the horse like starts to tame. That's kind of how I feel with this transition, because there have been times in motherhood recently with the kids' ages that it's like somebody's always up because they peed the bed, or they had a nightmare, or they slept into our bed, like snuck into our bed. So it's just kind of chaotic right now.
Yeah.
But in order to get through and still like, you know, love your life and feel well, it's just about balancing that.
I think that that's such a good tip, like such a good nugget for anyone in the audience who's listening, because I think that we live in a complain culture. It's like, oh, well, my kid's not sleeping and like now I can't go to work. And it's like, but wait, like if you wake up the next day and you're like, okay, like I didn't get that much good sleep last night. I've got a 5, 3, and 2-year-old, or for me, I've got like a 2-year-old and a 7.5-month-old. Like they don't sleep either. And so it's like, how can I just show up in the best way for the work that I absolutely love, and the husband that I love, and the kids that I love, because I know that for the next couple of years, I'm not going to get sleep. And so that's where I'm at. And like, I'm going to meet myself where I'm at versus like sit there and complain. Like which one is going to have a better impact on how you move through the rest of your day? I think that that's like a really, really great nugget.
Yes. And recognizing that we chose to be parents, and this is our reality. And so like, we wanted this. And let's embrace it. And perhaps we need to like reset some other things. Like there are things that I want to do in business for sure, in life for sure, that sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish I could do that thing. Like, you know, my friends are doing that thing and I want to do that thing. And I just know that this is not the year for that. And
That's
maybe
okay.
it'll be 3 years from now, but that's okay. And eventually it'll happen.
Right. Exactly.
Like, so maybe Kelley, you can relate to that.
That's
What
what I
are
tell her
all
all
the
the time.
100%.
Timing is everything.
So with all of that said, can you tell our listeners where they can find you if they want to show up, sign up for some of your programs? What is like the website, your Instagram, all of those things?
Well, so Maggie_Berghoff is my Instagram and TikTok. So definitely go follow there because I do show every single day on stories and just valuable tips and things like that. And I'm in my DMs a lot. So follow me on social. And then if you want health help or business help, maggieberghoff.com will take you to either of those options. And like I said, for the business front, we have everything from the lower end investment options of DIY type of programs, all the way up to a full in-house PR agency and done for you photography, videography, course build, all that good stuff. So we can help support you wherever you are. So if you're confused on that, just reach out and let us know and we can hop on a call and chat it through.
Amazing.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you so
the
much
time.
for doing this. I am so grateful, especially since you're not doing any media.
Yeah, we
this year.
feel honored.
I feel
It's the first
very
podcast.
I'm really excited. This is literally the first one in a few years, probably a year and a half, but we're gearing up. You'll see. I'm excited to do more PR because it's timing, right?
It's all about timing.
You know, it's all about that timing. And, you know, we had just had 3 babies in 4 years. We built a house. We moved to 3 different states, I think, like 5 different, it's timing. And so you have to notice, you know, although you have these big ambitious goals, for me, and this is what my husband reminded me in that first year when I was not reflecting my goals very well, like I chose this for flexibility and freedom for family and for wellness and for lifestyle. And so just coming back to those core roots really helped navigate that.
One more thing that I'm going to say is that, like, I think that what you said about, you know, taking the time off this year and like your business not falling apart is so important for anyone out there who thinks that they have to be in all the places and do all the things all the time to be successful. And I know that that was true for me. And I think that what you like, the way that we had that conversation before I even took the month of social media in October, I was like, oh my gosh, like, what if I'm not on? Like, people are not going to, and it's like, no, you have all of the things in the background. And like, for me, you've helped me build all of the structure in my business to like make it so like I don't have to be on social media every single day if I don't want to be, and that's okay. And so I think that, like, you know, if I can just like give you one more plug, that's like one of the that's like the most amazing thing that you've helped me with, and like, and recognizing that like you don't have to burn yourself out to make it happen, and you can build a beautiful business and again like have that life that you want at the same time.
Yeah,
So.
it's really about the life. It's about the overarching life that you are living and choosing that. And being off of social media for 1 month is really not going to matter.
Yeah,
so if you feel super overwhelmed and stressed in your business and you're freaking out and you're, you know, working so much and burning out, get back to your core of why you're doing this and who you even are as a human and like what you want in the world. And that's going to help you a lot.
Thank you, Maggie. You're the best.
You're
Thank you so
welcome.
much.
Thanks for having me, you guys. This was awesome. And I'm glad to share these little tidbits with your audience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We really hope that you enjoyed that episode. You can follow me on Instagram at Wellness by Kelley. And if you're new around here, you can sign up for the WBK 7-day free trial where you can get access to all of my low impact workouts, blood sugar balancing, plant-based recipes, and guided meditations, all available on wellnessbykelly.com and on the WBK app.
Hey, thanks for listening.
Please make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also connect with us on social media at Wellness by Kelley. Drop us a DM for who you want to hear from.